were supposed to have shaking hands and a pounding heart. She heard the sound of heavy footsteps. Someone was searching the house. For what, exactly? What treasures did they hope to find? And why weren't they trying to at least disguise their presence? Having resolutely ignored all suggestions that she might be vulnerable, she was now forced to acknowledge the possibility. Perhaps she shouldn't have been so stubborn. How long would it have taken from pressing the alert button to the cavalry arriving? In reality, the cavalry was Finn Cool, who lived 3 fields away. Finn was a musician, and he'd bought the property precisely because there were no immediate neighbours. His antics caused mutterings in the village. He had rowdy parties late into the night, attended by glamorous people from London who terrorised the locals by driving their flashy sports cars too fast down the narrow lanes. Someone had started a petition in the post office to ban the parties. There had been talk of drugs and half-naked women, and it had all sounded like so much fun that Kathleen had been tempted to invite herself over. Rather that than a dull women's group where you were expected to bake and knit and swap recipes for banana bread. Finn would be of no use to her in this moment of crisis. In all probability, he'd either be in his studio wearing headphones or he'd be drunk. Either way, he wasn't going to hear a cry for help. Calling the police would mean walking through the kitchen and across the hall to the living room where the phone was kept, and she didn't want to reveal her presence. Her family had bought her a mobile phone, but it was still in its box, unused. Her adventurous spirit didn't extend to technology. She didn't like the idea of a nameless, faceless person tracking her every move. There was another thump, louder this time, and Kathleen pressed her hand to her chest. She could feel the rapid pounding of her heart. At least it was still working. She should probably be grateful for that. When she'd complained about wanting a little more adventure, this wasn't what she'd had in mind. What could she do? She had no button to press, no phone with which to call for help, so she was going to have to handle this herself. She could already hear Liza's voice in her head. "Mum, I warned you." If she survived, she'd never hear the last of it. Fear was replaced by anger. Because of this intruder, she'd be branded old and vulnerable and forced to spend the rest of her days in a single room with minders who would cut up her food, speak in overly loud voices, and help her to the bathroom. Life as she knew it would be over. That was not going to happen. She'd rather die in the hands of an intruder. At least her obituary would be interesting. Better still, she would stay alive and prove herself capable of independent living. She glanced quickly around the kitchen for a suitable weapon and spied the heavy black skillet she'd used to fry the bacon earlier. She lifted it silently, gripping the handle tightly as she walked to the door that led from the kitchen to the hall. The tiles were cool under her feet, which fortunately were bare. No sound, nothing to give her away. She had the advantage. She could do this. Hadn't she once fought off a mugger in the back streets of Paris? True, she'd been a great deal younger then, but this time she had the advantage of surprise. How many of them were there? More than one would give her trouble. Was it a professional job? Surely no professional would be this loud and clumsy. If it was kids hoping to steal her TV, they were in for a disappointment. Her grandchildren had been trying to persuade her to buy a smart TV. But why would she need such a thing? She was perfectly happy with the IQ of her current machine, thank you very much. Technology already made her feel foolish most of the time. She didn't need it to be any smarter than it already was. Perhaps they wouldn't come into the kitchen. She could stay hidden away until they'd taken what they wanted and left. They'd never know she was here. A floorboard squeaked close by. There wasn't a crack or a creak in this house that she didn't know. Someone was right outside the door. Her knees turned liquid. Oh, Kathleen, Kathleen. She closed both hands tightly round the handle of the skillet.